Growing up, I feel like we would always hear that life is all about balance. Balance is key, don't do anything too extreme. So I would try and divide my time and energy between a bunch of different things: school, work, physical health, mental health, spending time with family, hanging out with friends, traveling, trying to read more, manage my finances, hobbies, start new habits, keep up with the latest TV shows, etc. But trying to focus on everything at once felt overwhelming, and as a result, most things in my life just felt kind of mediocre and like I wasn't really getting the most out of anything in particular. All of these things felt important to me, but I didn't get how I was supposed to achieve that balanced lifestyle that everyone talked about. Then I realized I had it all wrong. Chasing balance wasn't the key to an enjoyable life. In fact, I found that pursuing balance led to an overwhelming life full of mediocrity and frustration. The moment that I stopped trying to perfectly balance everything equally and changed my overall approach to life was the moment that I actually started to enjoy life more and see real progress in the things that I cared about. The balance myth. In the whole self-improvement or lifestyle space, I feel like there's kind of this pressure or ideal situation that we're supposed to be able to balance all these different things in our life and kind of have this magical equilibrium where we dedicate equal amounts of time to all these different things and it all just like works out perfectly. And on the surface, the idea of having a balanced life sounds kind of nice, where you kind of divide all your time and effort equally between all the main things in your life. And so at least for me, it led to this kind of misconception where I thought that living a balanced life was ideal and that we should allow time for all these different things and that it was bad to do any one thing to an extreme level. But I've since found that this approach to life leads to an overall mediocre and average lifestyle. And if you watch my videos, you know that we're the type of people who don't want to settle for an average, mediocre life. We want more out of life. In fact, we want the most out of life and to become the best version of ourselves and live to our fullest potential. I always refer back to this picture from the book Essentialism, which I think perfectly sums up this concept in a nice visual way, where basically you can see if we divide our energy equally amongst a bunch of different things, we'll basically be going nowhere very slowly. Whereas if we cut out the noise and really focus in on just one or two key things in our life, we'll make dramatic progress in that area and it'll bring the rest of the things in our life along with it. So my new view on balance is that balance doesn't necessarily mean equality. It simply means that we allocate our time and energy to certain things in our life in such a way that it leads to the greatest amount of overall enjoyment and growth. This could mean that the amount of time we spend on different things is dramatically unequal. We may spend the vast majority of our free time on work, building a side business, school, or we could spend it on relationships, hanging out with friends, family, or education and learning. I don't think we always need to feel like we have to leave room for this or that we have to have an equal balance between everything in our life. In fact, I believe that dedicating the vast majority of your time and effort to just one crucial thing is the best way to progress and enjoy life and actually feel like you have that balanced lifestyle. To do this, we need to first find the constraint. Right now, you probably feel like you have a bunch of different things going on in your life. It could be school, work, relationships, friends, fitness, going to the gym, whatever it is. And it might feel like everything has some room for improvement and could use your focus. But obviously, if we try to attack all the different areas in our life, it's going to be overwhelming and we're not going to see that progress and we're going to get discouraged. Feeling like you have all these different problems or things in your life that need fixing can feel discouraging, but the good news is you don't have to worry about everything. There's likely just one constraint, one bottleneck that is preventing all of the things in your life from improving. Imagine if you had like a giant hose with water flowing through it, and then somewhere in the hose it gets bent. It gets like a little kink and then the water flow kind of stops or it gets a lot slower. The answer here isn't to obviously throw out the whole hose or check the water pressure or anything. We just need to find that one spot in the hose that is preventing the rest of the water from flowing through. And so we can do the same exact thing in our life. Find that one kink in the hose that is preventing our life from moving forward and preventing us from enjoying life to the fullest. For me, I've definitely found that is my career or the way that I make a living, and I believe that, if I continue to work my day job for the rest of my life, I'll never reach my fullest potential as a person and I will never be able to really enjoy the best life that I can possibly live. So that's why I started this YouTube channel, to do something more meaningful with my life and also make money in a fulfilling way where I feel like I'm genuinely providing value to the world by helping people like you improve their lives. So once we identified the overall constraint for our whole life, we can also find the constraint within the constraint. So for example, with my YouTube channel, the last thing I want is for you to feel like you've wasted your time by watching one of my videos. So I always try to make my videos as valuable as possible and as applicable to your life as I can. but that's simply not always going to be the case since everyone's life situation is a little bit different. So I've been trying to find a way to give more personalized advice, guidance, tips to you specifically so that you can see even more significant results in your own life. So to help with this constraint, I started offering one-on-one productivity and life coaching to really customize and tailor my advice to your specific life situation. Offering this service will also help me progress towards fulfilling that overall life constraint of building my own business and eventually being able to quit my 9-to-5 job. So take a minute to think about what the overall constraint might be in your life, and don't be afraid to really take some time with this because it's not always as obvious as you think. And once you've identified what the overall constraint, bottleneck, or kink in the hose is for your whole life, try and figure out what the smaller constraint within that larger constraint might be. Once we have that, we can go on to the next step, which is monk mode. You've probably heard of this term monk mode thrown around in other YouTube videos, and it's nothing really special. It just kind of sounds cool, so that's why they use it. Basically, all it is a period of intense focus and dedication to a specific goal. It involves basically cutting back as much as you can on all other things in your life that do not positively contribute towards you achieving this goal. And so going through these seasons of monk mode or intense periods of focus, I think is really the key to seeing significant progress and results in your life. When we really dial in and just focus on one thing, we'll see progress at 10 times, 20 times, 100 times the rate than we would have if we had just kind of done that thing casually every now and then. Think about anyone you look up to, any successful YouTuber, influencer, businessman, athlete, musician. None of them got to where they are by having a balanced life where they did a bunch of different things and dedicated equal amounts of time to everything. They focused on one thing, one constraint, and rapidly progressed in that area. And naturally, over time, behind the scenes, the rest of their life progressed as well. Maintain and pivot. So when we're focusing on attacking one constraint, we obviously don't want to completely neglect or ignore other areas of our life, for example, like our health or relationships. But I think anything that is a net negative on our life, like bad habits, can be neglected or ideally cut out entirely. But for these other non-priority areas that are still important to us, we want to apply this concept of giving it the minimum viable dose. This is basically like the minimal or most efficient amount of time or effort that we can dedicate to a particular area to keep it at maintenance level and prevent it from declining. So to do this, we really just need to find kind of like the 80-20 rule for all the other areas of our life. So basically the 20% of efforts that will lead to 80% of the results, and find the highest leverage activity that is the most efficient use of our time. So for example, maybe one of the areas that isn't really your main priority right now, but still matters to you deeply is relationships, family, friends, etc. So one thing we could maybe do is instead of hanging out with friends and family every single day of the week for hours on end, we could reduce that to once a week or every 2 weeks. But when we do take that time, we can make sure to do an activity that is really enjoyable and meaningful and special, rather than doing some service level activity like watching Netflix or playing video games together. So if we follow this mindset, our system for life can kind of revolve around seasons of intense focus on one thing while keeping everything else in our life at maintenance level. Then once you reach a certain level in that main focused area and fulfill that constraint, or maybe you feel like a different area of your life has become the new constraint, we can pivot and start a new season of intense focus on that area and keep everything else at maintenance. On the surface, it might seem that by dedicating most of our efforts to just one area that we won't end up being very well rounded, but in my experience, it's actually the complete opposite. If we don't identify and attack the main constraint, we'll be holding back all the other areas of our life from success. Remember, it's the constraint or the bottleneck or the kink in the hose that is preventing all the water from flowing through. Let me know down in the comments what the constraint is in your life. And if you're having difficulty identifying it or could use some more personalized guidance and motivation, I started doing one-on-one productivity and life coaching. You can hop on a free call with me to see if we're a good fit for each other. That's the top link in the description. Go click that right now. As always, do something today that your future self would thank you for.